Hello everybody, my name is Joanna and I loved Ever After High as a kid. Ever After High happened right around the time my mom stopped buying me legal DVDs, so I had to rely on YouTube to watch whatever I wanted, which was very convenient because they would post the webisodes and sometimes even the specials of Ever After High on YouTube. So I watched them so much, and I've always really liked them, but I wanted to rewatch all the specials to see what I would think of now as an 18-year-old. So I ended up rewatching all the specials, and I have a lot of thoughts about them, so I decided to make this video where I'm going to take you guys on a journey through my opinions on Ever After High. I think this is going to be interesting. Shockingly, this video is not going to be a ranking, guys. I know ranking is my biggest passion, so I did rank all of the specials in a letterboxd list. If you're interested, I'm going to link my letterboxd on the description or something, but this is not a ranking. I think this should be fun, so let's go! Hi guys, Editing Joanna here. I just felt like I should pop in before the video begins to say that, as I will mention in the video soon, I just got a new microphone. As you can see, I'm using it now, and I was still figuring out how to use it while filming this video, so there's a lot of parts where I got some technical issues going on that I found out what was causing that. But basically, especially in the beginning of the video when I still hadn't realized this was happening, there's a lot of parts that are going to sound very low, and I tried dubbing over them so it might sound weird or look weird, but this is because the sound was being cut off from my mic because I didn't know how it worked because it was my first time using it. So I'm sorry for that, and I'll do better next. Thank you. Let's go to the video. Hello everybody. So my name is Joanna, but I also like to be positive sometimes. So the first ever special for Ever After High was called Legacy Day, A Tale of Two Tales, and I think it introduces us to our characters and our main conflict in a pretty interesting way. So we begin the movie with a male narrator telling us that Ever After High is the school where the children of fairy tale characters attend, and they all have to sign the storybook of legends in an event called the Legacy Day in order to pledge to follow their parents' footsteps and be the characters that they are supposed to be in their respective stories. He then gets interrupted by a female narrator, and yes, we have a fight of narrators, I guess, and we get introduced to two characters, Raven Queen and Maddie Hatter. Raven is the daughter of the evil queen from Snow White, and she's telling Maddie that she's afraid that people are going to hate her because of that. Maddie tries to reassure her and tell her that this is not the case, and in case you haven't noticed,
I'm weird. I'm a weirdo.
By her name, Maddie is the daughter of the Mad Hatter from Alice in Wonderland. Also, a detail that I find very cute is that Maddie can hear the narrators. So they are talking and Raven cannot hear them, but Maddie can, which I think is pretty cute, as I said. But alas, Maddie's wrong.
It's Raven Queen! Run! She is evil! Run, everyone!
They don't have the best reaction to her, I guess you could say. So Raven ends up sitting by herself when this definitely nerdy guy shows up. He tries talking to her and you can tell he's a little nervous. Raven answers that she would invite him to sit and have lunch with her, but he probably wouldn't want to because she's evil. And then that's when Applewhite shows up. So yeah, Applewhite is the daughter of Snow White, as you might expect from her name, and she's also in the company of Daring Charming, who is the son of Prince Charming. We then learn that this definitely nerdy guy is actually Daring's younger brother Dexter, and I just have to say that the ship Dexter and Raven was my favorite one as a kid.
It was always you, falling for me, now there's always time, calling for me on the line, waiting at the end of the road, wait back to let me know.
So Raven leaves and she's going to her dorm expecting to find Maddie, who is her roommate there, but she arrives at the dorm and she finds Apple there. That's weird, right? So Raven is like, Apple, what are you doing here? My roommate is Maddie. And Apple answers, well, I asked Headmaster Grimm for us to be roommates because I want us to get close since you're so important to my story. And she also decorated Raven's side of the bedroom with what she thinks Raven would like, which is like these spooky, scary decorations, which I think is pretty funny. Before we continue, I just have to get this out of the way. I am an Applewhite apologist. I will defend this girl's actions with my teeth and nails, as we say in Portuguese, and I translated it in the foot of the letter. I feel like I should explain this or else it's not going to make any sense. In Portuguese, we have an expression that is com unhas e dentes, which means with nails and teeth, which means you're going to defend a person a lot, and I translated it into English directly because I didn't know any other expression that meant the same thing in English. And when you translate something directly without giving its actual meaning, we have an expression for that in Portuguese that is traduzir ao pé da letra, which means translate in the foot of the letter. So I just translated in the foot of the letter, the expression translate in the foot of the letter. Anyway, no one's going to care about this. I love this girl, but with that said, she's so annoying. Anyway, let's continue. So Apple and Raven talk, and Apple explains to Raven that she asked Headmaster Grimm to put them in the same bedroom because Raven is super important to Apple's story, blah, blah, blah. And then it's time for Legacy Day rehearsals. They are going to rehearse what they are going to say on Legacy Day and this type of stuff. So it's Raven's turn to rehearse her pledge to follow her destiny, and she's going there to say the speech she has to say, but she ends up having an idea. So she's like, Headmaster Grimm, what if I don't sign up the Storybook of Legends? Headmaster Grimm answers that if she doesn't sign the Storybook of Legends, the whole story that Raven is a part of is going to disappear. So she's like, well, I should probably still sign it up because I don't want like Apple to disappear or Daring. Raven is very overwhelmed by this, rightfully so. So she runs away to the Enchanted Forest to, I don't know, clear her head. I'm not entirely sure. But she's like being upset at the situation. And we see that she's being watched on a mirror. That's suspicious. She's being watched by this guy here, Giles Grimm, who I wonder who that is. And so this is Raven's side of the story. Now it's time for us to learn Apple's, right? So Apple is introduced as she walks to Ever After High with her best friend Briar Beauty. Briar is the daughter of Sleeping Beauty, and she talks a lot about how she likes to party and how much fun she's going to have at parties and this type of stuff. When Apple arrives to the school, we can see that everybody loves her and thinks she's the best person to ever exist.
Everybody loves you.
It's Apple White.
Gorgeous.
Can I carry your books?
Why, Tiny? Aren't you the sweetest little thing?
And she and Daring Charming are seen as a very, I don't know, they are pretty well liked as a couple. And they get interviewed by Blondie Locks, who is the daughter of Goldilocks, who has an interview show, I think. Apple then decides to redecorate her dorm to make it more Raven friendly, I guess.
I want my room to be Raven friendly.
AKA more evil. And Briar is helping her. So they finish redecorating literally at the last second before Raven arrives, and Raven begins opening the door. Briar actually jumps off the window, and they are in a tower, so that's dangerous, but Briar is a daredevil, I guess. Apple and Briar then visit Aisling Ella's shoe store, and you will never guess who's the mother of this character based on what I just said. And it's time for Legacy Day rehearsal. Apple is going to go rehearse to her little speech. She obviously accepts to follow her mother's footsteps and be the next Snow White. And then from Apple's perspective, we see that after Raven runs off to the Enchanted Forest, Headmaster Grimm actually talks to Apple and tells her, you have to convince Raven to sign the Storybook of Legends or else something bad is going to happen. Like, she cannot not sign it, you know? Okay, so now it's time for the actual Legacy Day. It's time for the characters to sign up the Storybook of Legends, and Maddie signs it up, Aisling signs it up, Apple signs it up, and then it's Raven's turn. As she watches images of what her future is going to be like, Raven makes a decision. And what she says in this moment is so...
I am Raven Queen, and I'm going to write my own destiny. My happily ever after starts now.
This had 9-year-old me in a chokehold, you know? It changed my life. I'm not joking. To her surprise, Raven doesn't disappear, and neither does Apple or anyone else from their story. And she tries talking to people, but everyone is screaming or like having intense reactions to what is going on, so she freezes time because Raven has met. She's like a witch. I feel like I should have said that. Anyway, she only unfreezes Apple and tries explaining to Apple her decision and how she thinks everybody should get to choose their destiny and not be forced to follow something that they might not want to, but Apple doesn't listen to her. And then she runs away. And then Raven also unfreezes Maddie because she needs emotional support in the moment. And then Legacy Day ends with Headmaster Grimm being worried about Raven's choice and an evil laugh coming out of the mirror in his office. I wonder what that's about. Okay, so this is a summary of what happens. So what are my thoughts on this movie? It's kind of hard to compare Legacy Day, A Tale of Two Tales to the other specials in this list because it is the only, well actually True Hearts Day is also 20 minutes long, but this is the only movie here that is 20 minutes long, and it is split into 3 different stories, so it is difficult to compare them, but I think this one does its job pretty well. It introduces us to the characters and their motivations in a way where we understand where most of them are coming from, while also laying the groundwork for a lot of plot points that are going to happen later. I do think the side characters, and by that I mean everyone who is an Apple or Raven, might come off as very one-note and shallow for now, like they're only defined by one specific thing that has to do with their fairy tale parent. Like Ashlyn, who is the daughter of Cinderella, likes shoes and has a shoe star. Really, guys? At least Briar, the daughter of Sleeping Beauty, has a character trait that is a little different, that at face value doesn't have anything to do with her mother. She likes to party. We'll discuss this later. But I do think this issue is resolved in the other movies and in the webisodes, like the characters get more characteristics and development, which make this not be as much of a big deal, if that makes sense. With that said, I don't think Apple's motivations are as well portrayed in her tale as Raven's are in hers. With Raven, we see her already not liking to be perceived as evil, since she knows she isn't that. And when it's actually time for her to sign the book, we see her realizing that following her destiny means that she would have to do things that she wouldn't want to do, and that she would be unhappy for the rest of her life. So sympathizing with her is easy because she's likable and rebellious, and it's quite obvious that she doesn't deserve her fate. And then there's Apple. Apple seems like someone who has always been handed everything on a silver platter. Or as we say in Portuguese, that she has always been given everything with a kissed hand. She only talks about how other people play a part on her future and how happy she will be following her destiny. And I understand why so many people dislike Apple and remember her as a selfish character. This is how she is depicted here. However, this isn't the full story. One thing that made me fall in love with Ever After High was how it was all about choices and going in or against tradition. Obviously, it isn't a masterpiece of modern cinema with impeccable social commentary, but it was pretty interesting for me to be thinking these things at the age of 10, you know? And what I liked about it was that although I sympathized and liked Raven way more, I could understand where Apple was coming from too. She was fixated on her own destiny, yes, but above it all, she just wanted everything to work out. Throughout her whole life, Apple has been conditioned to see things in this very black and white way of thinking of you will have to follow your destiny or something bad is going to happen. We might know that Headmaster Grimm's speech about the people from a story vanishing if you don't sign up to Storybook of Legends is a lie, but Apple doesn't. She does think this will happen. So to her, Apple not signing up the Storybook of Legends and consequently other people not doing so is bad because it might seriously hurt the people she cares about. And it is also a threat to the safety and reassurance she had her whole life that she was going to be happy. Again, I've always liked Raven more. I think her actions, although they begin with a more selfish reasoning, begin way better for everyone else in the long term. And she does seem to be a lot less selfish than Apple at face value. But Apple isn't this cartoonishly egotistical character she could have been either. Both sides don't mean any harm. And what I don't like about Legacy Day, A Tale of Two Tales, is that it doesn't show this nuance to Apple's side. This is something that gets expanded in the next movie, so it isn't the end of the world. But I do think it cheapens the story to see things this way. It makes it go from a conflict of morals with no side being 100% correct to a conflict of a character we like doing something that makes sense against a character we don't like doing something stupidly selfish. And as I said, I am an Applewhite apologist, so I don't like to see her character being portrayed this way. But yeah, besides that, it's a fine movie. Next one. The next special is True Heart's Day, and it's the other special that is only 20 minutes long, although this one is like a full complete story. So we begin this story getting introduced to the character of Cupid, who is the daughter of the Greek mythology Cupid Eros. And if you are wondering what Cupid is doing in Ever After High, and if that implicates that other mythology beings like Apollo or Horus or Jesus are sending their children to this school, my answer is that they unfortunately do not. Cupid is actually from the Monster High universe, where she is called C.A. Cupid, and I suppose there must be other mythological beings in Monster High. I don't know, I haven't watched Monster High in such a long time. But yeah, now Cupid is in Ever After High, and she is the host of a radio show? A podcast? I'm not exactly sure, where she gives dating advice, and I just love Cupid. She was one of the characters that I didn't care too much as a kid because she was getting in the way of my favorite ship, but upon my rewatch, she's just so cute, and she's in a pretty sad situation, this poor girl. Let's talk about it. I feel like now is a good time to introduce the Charming siblings, the children of Prince Charming. And just for context, it is stated that there are plenty different Charming families, so no, Apple is not dating her brother. First of all, we have the oldest Charming sibling, Daring, whom I talked a little bit about before. Daring is Apple's Prince Charming, and his personality is being cool and well, charming, I guess. He's very popular, but he's way too self-centered. He thinks about himself and specifically his appearance. And he also has perfect white teeth that blind people who look at them.
Charm you later.
Which I think is pretty funny. Then the middle kid is Dexter Charming, which I've learned upon reading the Ever After High wiki that is short for Dexter's Charming, and he's shy. Yeah, Dexter is like friendly and nice, but he's also pretty shy and he has trouble talking to one specific girl, Raven. He's also consistently comparing himself to Daring, and just like Daring has perfect teeth that blinds people, Dexter has perfect eyes that make girls fall in love with him just by looking at him. Guys, now that we are in the topic of Dexter's eyes, do you guys think that they respect sexual orientation? So like gay guys also fall in love with him and lesbians don't, or they don't respect it? That's an interesting question, right? Comment down below your thoughts. But he doesn't know that because he wears glasses. We also don't know what fairy tale Dexter is a part of. And the youngest Charming is Darling. She hasn't been introduced yet, but I'm going to talk about her because she's going to be important later. And she is Dexter's younger twin, which I love as a fellow younger twin sister to a brunette older twin sibling. As I said, she still hasn't been introduced, but in the beginning, Darling is very shy and sweet. And we also don't know which fairy tale she's a part of yet. So the reason why I introduced the Charmings is that Cupid's sad situation is that she is in love with Dexter, but he likes Raven. And he actually calls Cupid's podcast / radio show ? To ask her dating advice as to like how to ask Raven out. So poor Cupid has to hear this guy asking her advice as to how ask another girl out. And what makes me love Cupid so much and like her so much is that she's not mean about this. She gives him like genuine advice and tries to help him even though it's going to go against her own feelings. She's just so nice, guys. Why did I hate her? I mean, I didn't hate her, but I didn't like her as much as I do now. So this movie takes place in a holiday called True Hearts Day, go figure. And Cupid wants to throw a True Hearts Day dance to celebrate it since she's all about love and such. And Briar wants to help her organize the dance because she likes parties. However, Headmaster Grimm doesn't want this party to happen because he thinks encouraging people to talk about true love and celebrate True Hearts Day is going to make some people might not want to sign up to Storybook of Legends or like turn into rebels or something because they might fall in love with people who are not their significant others in their stories. Ironically, he isn't wrong in that because Aisling Ella, the daughter of Cinderella, is revealed to be in the secret relationship with Hunter Huntsman. I wonder who's is this guy's father. Yeah, he's the son of the hunter. I'm not totally sure if it's the hunter from the Three Little Pigs story. How is this called in English? I don't think I've ever heard how this is called. Is there a hunter in the story? I feel like there is. Or from Little Red Riding Hood, or from Snow White. I don't know which story he's from, but he's the son of the hunter of one of these fairy tales. And they have to hide their relationship because people, especially Apple, wouldn't understand. And Apple is Aisling's like best friend, so she doesn't want Apple to know. This whole situation is actually making Aisling regret having signed up the Storybook of Legends because it means that she won't be able to be with Hunter in the future because she will have to follow her destiny. So this movie is basically Cupid and Briar and a guy whose name I cannot remember, but he turns into a frog. I think he's the Frog Prince from The Frog Prince. But basically he's like in love with Briar and he tries talking to her as a human and it doesn't work. He's like super awkward and shy, and being around girls makes him turn into a frog. And when he's a frog, he's like super eloquent and is able to say the most beautiful poetry.
Oh no.
I would delight in assisting you in your quest.
So yeah, it's the three of them trying to throw the dance behind Headmaster Grimm's back, and Aisling and Hunter trying to hide their relationship. Both of these things are being threatened by Duchess Sun. I think that she is the daughter of someone from the Swan Lake, going from her name and also the fact that she's always dancing ballet. And Sparrow Hood, the son of Robin Hood. It's mostly Duchess because she's a menace to society. So Duchess and Sparrow discover about Aisling and Hunter. Duchess threatens to expose them. And she also tries to tell Headmaster Grimm about the True Hearts Day dance because she wasn't invited. This all doesn't work though because everyone is lying about the location of the dance. So she goes to ask to Cedar Wood. I haven't talked about Cedar yet. So Cedar is the daughter of Pinocchio, but unfortunately she's cursed to not be able to lie. She's like only allowed to speak the truth, which is going to make things complicated when she has to be the next Pinocchio, you know. But it all works out because Briar told Cedar the wrong location of the dance, so when Duchess goes to ask her, Cedar doesn't lie, but she just knows the wrong location. The dance ends up not being ruined. And I just want to mention that I like the little friendship Duchess and Sparrow have. They're like frenemies. It seems like they don't really like each other, but Duchess is just dragging Sparrow along to whatever she wants to do. And I find it pretty funny. Also, Sparrow is this annoying character. He's like a rock star. He plays the electric guitar and he sings in an annoying way, which I find pretty funny too. So in the dance, Aisling and Hunter decide to make their relationship public because Cupid is giving this speech about true love or something. They're like, we have to stop hiding our true love. And people are mostly supportive of them. Apple, though, says that she does want Aisling to be happy and doesn't want them to fight because they're best friends. But she doesn't understand why Aisling could be doing something so harmful. So she's good with Aisling, but she still hasn't changed her mind. And then Dexter and Raven are robbed of a moment in the dance because Raven sees Dexter talking to Cupid, and it's this whole misunderstanding that has been going on. Long story short, Dexter thinks Raven likes Daring. It's this whole situation. I don't feel like explaining it. That makes it a -1 for my ship, but that's okay. And this is this movie. I like a lot of things about True Hearts Day. The first one is that we get a new explanation as to why someone would not want to sign up the Storybook of Legends. In Aisling's case, it's being with the person she loves. In my opinion, that is very clearly a metaphor for someone who stops being a conservative after realizing they're gay. And in the topic of gayness and homophobia, the second thing I really like about True Hearts Day is Apple, because we finally get a little bit more insight into her motivations. She's against Aisling and Hunter dating because she's genuinely afraid of how this would affect their safety and happiness. She's not being selfish, but she is being completely close-minded. And at the end of the special, she still hasn't changed her way of thinking. No one that's stubborn and stuck in her own ways and brainwashed would have. But she has learned to somewhat respect Aisling's choice. She's the conservative parent of figuratively ex-conservative, now gay Aisling, who doesn't really understand, but wants her child to be happy nonetheless. Is this a weird metaphor? I feel like it might be, especially considering the lesbian here is Apple, not Aisling. But that's not the point. Other things that I like about True Hearts Day is that we get a little bit more development from the side characters. Well, it's mostly Aisling, Cupid, Duchess, and Dexter, but anything we get from any side character is good for me because I love them all so much. And there's a lot of cameos from a lot of characters, and they all get little introduction cards when they show up, which I think is so cute. This movie isn't a masterpiece by any means, especially considering it's the shortest one, but I do really like it. The next special is Thronecoming, and Thronecoming, as you might have noticed, is a pun with Homecoming, which means this movie has a dance. Yay! So Headmaster Grimm is trying to get Raven to sign the Storybook of Legends once more, but she still doesn't accept it. Also, Thronecoming is like a parade too. It's like a holiday. I feel like it's a good way to explain it. And Ashley invites Briar to go help her build a float for the parade. But Briar says she needs to sew a dress before, which is dangerous because Briar ends up picking her finger on a needle and ends up falling asleep. Oh no. Apple and Raven then have a conversation where Raven finally tells Apple that she thinks Apple is being selfish by not accepting that there are people who don't want to follow their destinies. And Apple affirms that she only does this because she cares about Raven and her other friends and she doesn't want anything bad to happen to any of them.
Raven, I don't want you to sign the book for me. I want you to sign it so that nothing bad happens to the people that I love, including you.
If you think Briar is going to be asleep for the rest of these movies, don't worry, because Aisling goes back to her room and finds Briar there, their roommates, and she is able to wake Briar up with an alarm clock, a very loud one. But this whole situation does give Briar a pretty big existential crisis. It has been implied before that Briar likes to party because this is her way of enjoying life and having fun before she falls asleep for 100 years. But now we also understand that she herself is having a lot of issues with accepting to follow her destiny because falling asleep for 100 years means that she will lose all of her friends, all of her family. The world she knows is going to be gone by the time she wakes up. And remember, Briar still hasn't signed up the Storybook of Legends. So then we get introduced to what I like to call the Museum of Plot Devices, but is actually called Heritage Hall, a building that only shows up during Thronecoming. There, each character finds something that their parent has left as a gift for them. So we have Holly and Poppy, the twin daughters of Rapunzel, getting magical hairbrushes. Cedar gets glasses that show her the truth of everything. And Raven gets a coin. And by coin, I mean an actual coin and not the band coin, which I love. And I have a song here, and there's another one up there. I don't know if you can see. Loving. That one there. I don't think you can see it. Anyway, yeah, it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense, but Raven decides to use this coin in the wishing well on the enchanted forest. So she goes there and wishes the wishing well to show her what will happen to her friends if she doesn't sign the storybook of legends. The wishing well shows her her friends being in danger. Oh my god, no. So Raven runs away and tells Apple that she is going to sign up the storybook of legends, and it's going to be during the thronecoming parade. While they are getting ready for the thronecoming parade, Apple is telling everyone how happy she is that Raven is finally going to sign up the storybook of legends, and Briar snaps. She gets really mad and tells Apple how insensitive she's being, and then she ends up revealing that she herself isn't even sure if she wants to sign up the storybook of legends. When it's finally time for Raven to sign up the storybook of legends, Cedar is wearing her truth glasses, and she is able to see by her glasses that the storybook of legends isn't the actual storybook of legends. It is implied that the actual one has been taken by the evil queen, and Headmaster Grimm gets really mad at Raven because he thinks she's trying to deceive him, but he shouldn't be so offended considering the images the wishing well showed Raven were actually planted there by him, and so was the coin as her gift. This has all been his plan to get Raven to sign the storybook of legends for reasons of a backstory that I'll explain later. Then Maddie takes the girls to the basement to see Giles Grimm, which, if you haven't noticed by the surname, is the brother of Headmaster Grimm, who is stuck in the basement, to ask him about the actual storybook of legends. And he does try to help, but Giles has been cursed to only speak in riddles, so he doesn't help a lot. But what they get, and by what they get I mean is Maddie speaks British and she's kind of able to understand what is going on, is that they need to retrieve some missing pages that are missing, as I said, and get them to Giles. So using her truth glasses, Cedar realizes that the storybook of legends is probably in the Museum of Plot Devices, in this big storybook of legends that is there as like decoration. So they arrive there and the book is actually locked, but thank God Blondie knows how to pick locks, and so she's able to pick the lock of the book, which opens a portal. So they enter in this portal and they end up in this place where there are like big books that are other portals, and they guess that these are their storybooks, like the books that tell their stories, each of their respective stories, and that the missing pages that they need to find are inside there. So they decide to enter each one a different book to go find the missing pages. But they end up going to each other's stories, like not to their actual stories but to the other girls' stories. I don't know if I explained this well, but they don't end up at their stories, they end up at different stories. So Cedar is in Goldilocks and the Three Bears, Aisling becomes Pinocchio, Cupid is Cinderella, Maddie is Cupid, Blondie is in Wonderland, Briar is like the fairest of them all. Guys, I think when I was writing my script I misremembered it and I thought Briar was supposed to be Applewhite, but now like seeing the clips while I'm editing, I realized that Briar is obviously supposed to be in like Raven, like the evil queen, which honestly I'm sad that I didn't catch. I guess because I think it's pretty interesting, and is one of the things that led Briar to come into the conclusion that she doesn't agree with the whole signing your story either, because she lived through Raven's future and she saw that Raven was going to suffer a lot and do like something terrible. So I think this adds a little bit more depth to her choice at the end of this movie that I will discuss later. If you haven't seen it, you will understand what I'm talking about soon. But this is just something I wish I had realized while I was watching this for the first time, and I just wanted to comment about it because I think it's interesting. Apple is in Briar's story. Ooh, how poetic. And Apple ends up sticking her finger on a needle and she falls asleep. So all of the girls are able to retrieve their story pages, except for Apple because she's asleep. So Briar decides to enter her story to go save Apple. She's able to get the missing pages too, so now Apple is saved and they have the missing pages, and they take all the missing pages to Giles, like sorts them and is like, Raven, you are a witch, this is a spell, do the spell. And so Raven does the spell, and turns out this wasn't actually to find the storybook of legends, this was just a spell that would break Giles' curse, so he's not speaking in riddles anymore. But they still don't know where the storybook of legends is. Good thing we know. Well, everyone is at the dance, and Giles and Headmaster Grim are having an unearned sibling bonding moment. Briar finds the book in her own bedroom. But now Briar's conflicted, right? The book being gone meant she had more time to not have to think about following her destiny. So what does she do? Well, Briar throws the book down the wishing well. So Throne Coming ends with a dance. The Throne Coming king and queen are not announced. Giles is free, and the storybook of legends is in some other realm that we don't know of. Ooh, pretty good, right? There's just so much to love about Throne Coming. But before I talk about the things that I love, I want to talk about something that I really don't like about it, and that is Headmaster Grimm's backstory. I feel like his little backstory serves to undermine the message of these movies quite a lot. So back when Headmaster Grimm and Giles were kids, they were playing together when they saw a cave. Headmaster Grimm wanted to go explore the cave, but Giles didn't. He was like, our father told us a story that the moral was that exploring the cave was dangerous, so let's follow the story and not explore the cave. Headmaster Grimm ignored him, and Giles ended up succumbing to peer pressure, so they do end up exploring the cave. In the cave, they almost got attacked by an ogre, and Headmaster Grimm escaped quickly, but Giles didn't. Headmaster Grimm was able to save Giles, but that left him traumatized, and he decided that he would always follow stories from now on. First of all, I think a villain who just wants things to stay the same because that makes them retain power that they would lose, if the system changed, would make a lot more sense with the story and be a lot more powerful. I think the foundation work for a message like this was already somewhat done in the story. Just have Headmaster Grimm worried that he might lose his job if the kids aren't signing up the Storybook of Legends. I do understand in concept why they thought giving a sad backstory to Headmaster Grimm would make sense. This franchise up until now has been all about nuance and how no one is 100% correct in this conversation. So by giving Headmaster Grimm an understandable reason to think the way he thinks, and even make us empathize with him, would expand on that theme. It could be a reflection on people having good intentions, but going about them in bad means, kind of like Apple, but in a more extreme way, since Headmaster Grimm actually holds a lot of power over these kids. But the backstory they give him doesn't justify anything and barely makes any sense. And if the takeaway we were supposed to have from it was, well, yeah, Headmaster Grimm is doing some questionable stuff, but it's all because he really loves his brother, then why is he keeping Giles in the basement with a riddle curse? In my ideal Ever After High story, Headmaster Grimm is so fixated on things staying the same, and everyone signing up the Storybook of Legends because of a sad backstory. Maybe Giles didn't sign up the Storybook of Legends, which I don't think Headmaster Grimm did either. It's not specified if this is something all generations have to do, or if it's just the generation of our main characters. And I don't think all the faculty members of Ever After High are fairy tale characters, so they might not even have a story to follow. But anyway, so Giles doesn't sign up the Storybook of Legends, and because of a secondary cause, he then also gets cursed to only speak in Riddlish. So Headmaster Grimm thinks this is a consequence of him not having signed the Storybook of Legends, and begins getting scared of what not signing the book might mean. But then he realizes that by forcing all the students to sign up the Storybook of Legends, he's also able to keep basically the whole world in control, which he likes because some people like to be in control, I guess. I know I do. I have the song Scrawny by Wallows up here, and the lyrics I chose from the song to put there are, I can regret the things I don't try, I'd switch it up but I don't like change, only content if things stay the same, don't care to watch the story unfold, hate feeling like I'm not in control. But anyway, and he's against the rebels because he's afraid of losing the influence he has over these people. He gets so caught up in having so much power that he forgets what this was all about in the beginning. Protecting people from what he thinks are the bad effects of not following your destiny. And he ends up locking Giles up in the basement where he can't speak Riddlish to other people, I guess, and where he can't promote rebellion or something. Locking Giles up would show that his views of conservating society as it is may have had good intentions in the beginning, but by the end he only cared about the power that it gave him and didn't even want anything to do with the person this was all about protecting in the first place. But yeah, this is my biggest issue with Throne Coming. Besides that, there's plenty that I like about it. First of all, I really like the exploration of Briar's character. I like the way Ever After High keeps us showing different ways where following your destiny can hurt people. And I like that it seems like they care a lot about giving each character some sort of inner world and feelings. I know that it has been established pretty early on that Briar likes to party because she wants to enjoy life before falling asleep for 100 years. This is the first time we see her confronting this and realizing that that's not what she wants, which I really appreciate. And I also really like Apple's development for now. Having lived Briar's story and actually experiencing being asleep without the concept that she would wake up made Apple change her mind a little bit. Obviously, Apple's growth is baby steps, but I do think it would be unrealistic for her to stop believing what she believed her whole life so fast. She's slowly getting somewhere, which is good. I also really like the thronecoming looks. When I was a kid, these were the dolls that I wanted. And lastly, there is a subplot where one of the characters, Cerise, wants to be a part of the school's sports team. I don't remember what the sport is called, but they don't let her because she's a girl and they're sexist. Wow, very creative. So Cerise is the daughter of Little Red Riding Hood, but in one of the webisodes, we learned that she, like her father, is the big bad wolf, which we are not going to unpack any of that. And she hides that for a lot of reasons. But since she is half wolf, she has some wolf abilities, like she's super fast and strong, and she really likes meat and wants a meat day in the cafeteria, which they call the cassoteria, which I think is cute. And so the boys team is losing, and then Cerise joins the game in the last minute and makes them win, which, wow, haven't seen that before. So yeah, this is a very overdone story and Descendants 2 plagiarized it. But I really like Cerise, so I like seeing her doing something. And also, as a kid, I shipped her with Daring. Actually, it's complicated because I had issues with whom I shipped Daring with. I also liked him with Lizzie because of that one short. So yeah, with all that said, I really like Thronecoming. I like how it kept on expanding our characters, and the story Book of Legends being gone is super interesting, and I think it makes it pretty exciting for us to see what is going to happen next. The next special is Spring Unsprung, and you'll never guess when Spring Unsprung is set. Exactly, in spring. Wow. There's a fair happening, and it is called the Spring Fairest. So we get introduced to this character, Lizzie Hearts, who is the daughter of the Queen of Hearts, and she has a British accent, and I cannot do a British accent. I'm sorry to the whole population of England. Pretend you didn't hear this. Anyway, so yeah, Lizzie has a map that takes her to the Well of Wonder. That is this well that keeps on changing places. She has a map that tells her where it is, and she uses this well to get inspired to create new outfits for the girls, to sell new dolls, and they are hideous. They are so ugly. They are giving Tori Vega in the Birth Week Victoria's episode, and I don't mean this as a compliment. So then we meet Wonderland, woo! And there we see two new characters, Bunny Blanc, who is the daughter of the White Rabbit. And no, we are not going to question how a rabbit had a human daughter, or at least part human. She sometimes turns into a rabbit. And Alistair, not that I'm thinking about it, I don't think we know his last name. He's the son of Alice from Alice in Wonderland. And so Bunny and Alistair are getting captured by the Queen of Hearts. And we then learn that the Queen of Hearts has been a little crazy lately because of a curse that has been put in Wonderland called the Curse of Wonderland. And the person who did this curse was the evil queen, mother of Raven Queen. Some people were able to escape from Wonderland, like Natty and Lizzie, while others didn't, like Bunny and Alistair. So if we think about it, just like this Letterboxd review said, the Wonderland kids are like yesified refugees. But yeah, basically, they put like barriers between Wonderland and the other lands so that the Curse of Wonderland wouldn't spread anywhere else. And the only place you can go to Wonderland and from Wonderland is the Well of Wonder. Bunny and Alistair, while they're running away, they end up finding the Storybook of Legends. So now we know where it ended up after Briar threw it down the well. And they agree that they have to take it back to Ever After. But before they can jump on the Well of Wonder and take the Storybook of Legends with them, the Cheshire Cat, who for some reason in this version is female and a MILF, uses the second that they are distracted to switch the Storybook of Legends with the Riddle Book that has some spells so it looks exactly like the Storybook of Legends. And so Bunny and Alistair go to the Well of Wonder to go to Ever After, but there is one person who noticed the Cheshire Cat switching the books, and this person is the White Knight. You might want to remember him. So back to the Spring Fairest, there is a chef showdown happening, and Gingerbread House, whom is apparently the daughter of the cannibal witch from Hansel and Gretel. I didn't know that. I thought she was the daughter of the gingerbread guy from Shrek, but anyway. She's obviously going to participate in this chef showdown, but she needs Wonderland water for her recipe, so she's trying to find the Well of Wonder to get Wonderland water. But then poor Ginger falls down the Well of Wonder while she's trying to get Wonderland water, so now This girl is stuck in Wonderland. And while this is going on, Bunny and Alistair arrive to Ever After, and it's actually really cute to see the Wonderland kids reuniting and seeing each other after a long time. They all hug each other. It's pretty cute. But yeah, since we're talking about the Wonderland kids now, it's time to talk about Kitty, the daughter of the Cheshire Cat, and she has mommy issues. So Kitty has been pranking a lot of people in the fair up until now, but Kitty's mom is telling her, your pranks are not enough. They are not that good or mischievous. And Kitty's like, okay, so I have to do the best pranks then. And Raven comes up to Kitty and is like, why are you trying to be exactly like your mom if you're a rebel? You're not even going to like follow your destiny strictly. Like, you don't have to do this. And Kitty gives this centrist-esque answer about not being on anyone's side, and she's just doing what her mom asked her to because she wants to make her proud and be like her someday. It's funny how they are showing that by not picking sides, Kitty's still sticking to the status quo, which is picking a side. It is a statement, she just doesn't realize it. Alistair ends up giving the Storybook of Legends to Headmaster Grimm and everybody's happy, but Headmaster Grimm quickly realizes that it is a fake book, and Apple goes to read a part of it to see what it is, and turns out this is a riddle book that puts a spell that makes people act like the complete opposite of themselves. So now Apple is evil, Cedar is lying, Darien becomes a coward, and there are more people cursed. Also, I know I said the designs of the dresses of the girls in this movie are ugly, because they are, but I do like Cedar's clothes. I think she looks really cute here. So while this is going on, poor Ginger is lost in Wonderland and she ends up finding the abandoned tea shop of the Mad Hatter because the Mad Hatter was able to leave Wonderland, so now he's in Ever After. But his abandoned tea shop is there, and there she meets the White Knight. The White Knight tells her about the situation in Ever After, and they agree that they have to let them know what is going on about the riddle book and about how the Storybook of Legends has been switched. Ginger ends up finding this riddle on the oven that says that they should bake something and put a message inside of it, and that will make it so the message will be sent to the tea shop in Ever After. So then there's like shenanigans of the characters acting like they're opposites and Ginger baking in Wonderland. And something that I haven't talked a lot about is that the narrators from Legacy Day are still narrating, and they are a couple and they keep on fighting just like my parents. And they have a daughter named Brooke Page, very subtle guys, and she becomes a narrator in this movie too, if I'm not mistaken. So since Maddie can hear the narrators, Brooke ends up telling her that she should go to the tea shop to go find the message. Basically, then they find where the riddle book ended up, but all the characters are consumed by what the Ever After High wiki calls the dryness of wonder, except for the characters of Wonderland. So Kitty sees what her mother has caused and decides to go with her friends to ask her mom to undo what she did. Kitty's mom tells her, I will undo what I did if we play a board game together and you win. So Kitty ends up cheating on the board game, which makes the Cheshire Cat happy, and she actually tells them how to undo the curse. So Kitty both learns how to be her own person and not do exactly what her mom tells her, while also making her mom proud. Gotta love how the Ever After High writers want to eat their cake and have it too. I said the expression wrong, is have their cakes and eat it too, I'm sorry. But to be fair, I do like Kitty's little character development. Her going from I want to be exactly like my mom and not actually take sides to becoming her own person to protect her friends, while still maintaining her trickster personality was pretty nice, and I like seeing a movie more focused on her. So now that everything is back to normal, they go back to the fair to enjoy spring. The White Knight helps Ginger go back to Ever After, and then there's a shot of him taking off his helmet and he has long hair. Oh my god! Is the White Knight a girl? And yeah, that's it. And I mean, I like some stuff about this movie, but overall I think Spring Unsprung is a little bland. The concept of it already is I do think it's fun to see the characters as opposite versions of each other, but the spring fair was a boring idea. I don't like the designs of the clothes, as I said. And although I do like the introduction of Wonderland and the Wonderland characters and Kitty's little development, I just think it's a weird continuation for Thronecoming. Maybe this is because Thronecoming felt like the build-up for something epic, kind of like the Northwest Mansion Mystery episode of Gravity Falls. This was definitely not epic. I don't know, it's not my favorite one. Okay guys, it's time for Way to Wonderland, the fan favorite, and I might have some unpopular opinions about it. So this one begins with Apple wanting to write an article about the Wonderland curse in the newspaper, the school newspaper. Apple is trying to ask questions about the Wonderland curse and stuff like this, but Headmaster Grimm doesn't want to answer. He doesn't want her to write about that. And as always, Raven is the only person seeing the societal issues here. Apple decides to hold a meeting about the Wonderland article. But when it's time for it, only Darling shows up. Darling, as I mentioned before, is the youngest charming sibling. You might want to remember her. And Darling actually seems a little nervous and starts babbling about secrets. I wonder why. Thankfully, she's interrupted by Lizzie. Lizzie, as you may recall, is the daughter of the Queen of Hearts. And she's missing Wonderland quite a lot, especially because today is her mom's birthday. I'm sorry, I'm not going to attempt a British accent ever again. So the evil queen from a mirror, because yeah, apparently the evil queen is like available in any mirror now, makes a book fall off a shelf that is about the Wonderland curse. And Raven begins reading it, and she sees that according to this book, she might need to put an end to the Wonderland curse with her magic. So this, combined with Brooke Page, the narrator's daughter, telling Maddie that there's someone plotting against the Queen of Hearts in Wonderland, leads our characters to conclude that Raven should stop the curse. But she ends up doing the spell wrong. And what it does is that it teleports Raven, Apple, Lizzie, Briar, Kitty, and Darling to Wonderland, while Briar and I was going to call Alistair Austin for some reason. Why was I going to call him Austin? Yeah, Bunny and Alistair are left in Ever After. I think I was going to call Alistair Austin because he reminds me of Austin from Austin and Ellie, aka Ross Lynch. We then get this outfit transformation because they need to sell new dolls. And I feel like the Wonderland fits are very hit or miss. Some of them are really cool while others are hideous. They're at least better than Spring Unsprung, I guess. And Darling is also not with us anymore. She's not dead, she just disappeared. Then there's this moment where it's like a montage of the characters seeing a wondrous thing in Wonderland and being like, oh, isn't this wondrous? And then something bad happens and it turns weird because we are supposed to be confronted with the reality that Wonderland is cursed. And the curse of Wonderland is genuinely something so interesting that I wish was better explored. They show that in the people, this curse causes a thing called Wonderland fever. But again, I kind of wish it was explained better what this curse does, how it's affecting Wonderland, because it's genuinely so interesting. So the White Knight shows up and tells the girls to follow him. Should I use male pronouns with the White Knight, now that we know that he's a girl? I don't know. He's presenting himself as a boy for now, so I'm going to call him by he, him. And they end up in Wonderland High because for some reason this escapist fantasy world adventure movie needs a subplot about going to school. So there they meet the Red Knight, and the Red Knight tells them that they need to finish the school year and get a hall pass from the vice principal from the school in order to leave. Good thing the school year in Wonderland is only a day long. The classes actually end before tea time, which is very convenient because this is the time the Queen's birthday party is going to happen. And it's also probably the time the plotting against her is going to take place. This was established before, I just didn't comment about it. So now there's a bunch of shenanigans of them in Wonderland High going to classes that don't make a lot of sense. During the school day, we meet a character named Courtly Jester, who is the student body president. The Wonderland characters know her because they went to school with her before. And Apple wants to tell her about the plotting against the Queen because she thinks it's important to tell someone of authority, I guess, about what is going on. But Lizzie doesn't want that. And honestly, good on Lizzie because Courtly Jester turns out to be the villain of this movie and wants the girls to never graduate. There are more shenanigans of them in manipulated Wonderland classes so that it will take more time and they will never graduate, including a dance battle between the Red and the White Knight. But our main characters are finally able to graduate, and when they go to the vice principal's office to get their hall pass, they discover that the vice principal is actually Courtly Jester too. Now, as a kid, I always thought Courtly was supposed to be older than them, maybe because of the semi-caring pixie cut she has going for her. And her being a vice principal of a school also didn't help with my perception of her age. But according to this tweet I saw a few weeks ago, I guess that she's supposed to be younger than the main cast. Anyway, that's not the point. We actually end up finding that the courtly jester is actually the person plotting against the Queen of Hearts, and so she doesn't want them to leave the school to stop her plans. And so she sends them to trial where they are sentenced to eternal detention, and it's this whole thing, and they are able to leave, but I don't feel like explaining the stuff that happens for them to leave. While this is going on, we are in Ever After, and Dexter is worried because he cannot find Darling anywhere, and so he teams up with Bunny and Alistair to go find her and his friends who just poofed a few seconds ago. And then Darian shows up out of nowhere just to tell that Darling is in the library studying, and it's supposed to be a joke and funny. I don't get it. Okay, so now I need to explain that the girls got out of detention with the help of the Mad Hatter, who helped them, telling them how he left detention when he was a teenager and was in detention, and they achieved this with the help of Dexter, Bunny, Alistair, so that's why this was important. And so now Courtly is going to the card castle to go to the Queen's birthday party, and something that I find pretty fun is that Courtly is supposed to be kind of like a Joker card, and so she uses a Joker card to assume Liz's face to go to the party, and it's so sad to see the Queen of Hearts all happy to see her daughter, and it's not her actual daughter. So the Cheshire Cat is also going to the tea party, but she hasn't brought any present, and you cannot enter without bringing any present, so she ends up giving the Storybook of Legends as a present because she has it around, I guess. So Kitty finds the book and Courtly wants it, so the girls arrive at the party finally, and Lizzie sees her mom, and it's this whole thing, but then they are finally able to talk normally to each other. I don't know, it was pretty cute to see them reuniting. So Kitty tells the girls about the Storybook of Legends, and they want to get the Storybook of Legends, but so does Courtly. So they begin fighting to get the book, and Courtly apparently has magic thanks to a spell book that she found. So Courtly and Raven are magically fighting. Raven isn't being strong enough to stop her, so Apple is like,
You know, Raven, if you signed the Storybook of Legends, you would get your mom's powers and be able to protect your friends.
and Raven, being selfless the way she is, she accepts it. So yes, this is the moment we've been all, well, dreading and certainly not expecting this whole time. Raven signs the Storybook of Legends, and she's able to defeat Courtly, and this whole scene is so... Basically, Courtly is already on the ground, not being able to do anything anymore, and Raven wants to keep going. She would have killed Courtly if Apple hadn't stopped her. Good thing Apple's little speech actually stopped Raven. Fake Lee Hain could never. Xander Harris could. Not kill, I mean. Like, stop someone from magic mass killing. So yeah, friendship somewhat saved the day, which is my favorite trope. Then Raven uses her newfound magic powers to lift the Wonderland curse, and Apple recognizes that they should put this whole tradition behind, as it's only hurting people and people should be allowed to choose their own destinies. So this is also right after Briar actually told everybody that she was the one who got rid of the Storybook of Legends in Thronecoming, and Raven actually does a spell to get rid of the Storybook of Legends. The White and Red Knights are having a sword fight for fun, I guess, and the White Knight wins, and the Red Knight is like, wow, you're such a cool, strong man, slay. And then the White Knight takes off his helmet and is like, I'm actually a girl, and you'll never guess who it is. It's Darling Charming. I lived for this as a child. I love this plot point. And that is Way to Wonderland, considered by many the best Ever After High movie. Before I get into my opinion, I just want to mention that I wrote down in my notes about this movie, I could be wrong, but I think it's a challenge as a quote, and I have no idea who said this or what is the context. So I don't know, editing me will figure this out. Okay, with all that said, I do understand why Way to Wonderland is a fan favorite. Wonderland itself is a pretty cool place, and there are so many important and like iconic plot points happening in this special, but I think that this is the reason why it feels so rushed. First of all, I wouldn't have put Raven signing the Storybook of Legends and it being destroyed in the same movie in the first place. Nor I think Apple was already developed enough to be okay with this all happening. But if this is what they wanted to do, then I would cut off the whole part about them being in Wonderland School and use this time to better develop Apple's understanding and Raven's whole decision-making process. I wrote down in my notes that this movie was side quests, the movie, because this is what it feels like. There's just a bunch of stuff happening. I feel like this special could have been a really good build-up to a finale where the Storybook of Legends gets destroyed, and the whole Wonderland quest should have been a way to develop better the characters and the plot to get into this place. I like the moment of Apple saving Raven with the power of friendship and stuff, but it doesn't feel earned. I know that this moment is supposed to show Raven struggling to find the control to her new powers because she is getting her mom's powers and her mom is bad and evil, so obviously she's struggling to, use her powers for good and to control them. And that this moment is supposed to show that having a friendship, having someone by her side, in this case Apple, helping her to remember who she is, that is a good person, and that it's pretty special that it's Apple herself that is doing this, because Apple this whole time has been wanting Raven to be evil, and now that Raven is actually evil, not obviously by her choice, but because of the power and stuff, Apple is realizing that this is not who Raven is, and this is not nice. She doesn't want this to happen. So I do think that this is a nice moment, but okay, spoilers for Buffy season 6. Skip ahead if you don't want to see this, but the moment reminds me of, as I alluded to, Xander and Willow in the season 6 finale, when Willow is in her Dark Willow era and Xander gives that speech that is what is able to make her not destroy the world. And that moment, I think that that is such a powerful moment, and I love that moment so much because we see Xander's and Willow's friendship throughout this show. We see them being friends and being there for each other and knowing who they are. And I wish Way to Wonderland had showed more of Apple and Raven getting closer, because like they don't hate each other, they are cordial to each other. I think they even like each other as friends at this point, but like they are not super close in a way that this feels earned. So I wish we had seen more of maybe Apple learning to appreciate Raven's actual personality and who she actually is up until this point. And so this is just what I wanted to say. I wanted to clarify what I mean by that. We don't see Apple going through her realizations. She doesn't discuss it with anyone really. It just feels like she changed her mind out of nowhere when we know how stubborn Apple actually is. And Courtly Jester is just not a good villain. She's fun, but her motivations are not established and barely make any sense. I think it makes sense and it's okay for her to be a supplementary anti-hero or something, but the actual main villain should have still been, I don't know, Tradition in the form of Headmaster Grimm. Or it could have been like the cursed form of the Queen of Hearts. Not making her completely evil, but like the part where she's cursed. This could have some ramification, I don't know. And now that their destinies don't really matter, I keep on wondering what is supposed to be Dexter's story. Maybe he would have been Ashlyn's prince, or Briar's. Or not really, because Briar's prince is probably not born yet. And what about Darling? I guess we'll never know about her. So yeah, I don't love this movie, but I kind of understand why there are the pointless school scenes. This is a children's movie. Maybe children are more entertained by this than I am. And okay, next one. The next special is Dragon Games, and Dragon Games begins with us being reminded that Raven now has very strong powers, and she is going to visit her mom. Not in the mirror, she's just going to a room where the mirror where her mom is to talk to her mom. And so the evil queen once again tries to get Raven to be evil, and Raven is like, no. And so she gets really mad and ends up almost breaking the mirror with her magic. I wonder if that was premeditated by the evil queen. Also, Raven apparently has a dragon named Nevermore. And back on the topic of mommy issues, we then see Snow White, who is the queen, getting informed that her daughter, Applewhite, is no longer the most popular person in Ever After High. She's also constantly checking up on Apple's grades and social statistics, which isn't pressurizing at all. Snow White talks to Apple about that, clearly showing that she isn't happy with Apple's social fallout. Later that night, Apple goes to ask advice to her magic mirror, a la London and The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. But little does she know that the person actually answering her is the evil queen, because remember, she's able to switch the mirror that she's in. The evil queen does some emotional manipulation and preys on Apple's fear of not living up to her mother's expectations and her fairy tale destiny. Yes, we are still hung up on this whole fairy tale destiny thing for some reason, to make Apple break her mirror. So Apple breaks the mirror and the evil queen is free, but she takes the form of someone else, so it wouldn't be obvious that she escaped. She's now a teenager named Mira Shards. Very interesting name there. So yeah, Apple just unleashed the villain of this movie. That's highly questionable. Okay, so after this, Mira just tells everybody in Ever After High that she was homeschooled up until now and just starts doing bad things. Raven gets mad at her and her dragon Nevermore runs away. And so all of the girls go to try to find Nevermore, and they end up finding this huge arena where the dragon games used to take place. They also find a bunch of dragon eggs, which Raven helps to heat them with magic so that they would hatch faster. But then Mira also uses her magic to make them overheat, which thankfully doesn't kill them, but it does turn them bad for some reason. We also learned that back in the day, Snow White and the Evil Queen were both pretty big on the whole dragon games scene. They were team captains, and then Snow White actually shows up in Ever After High and tells everybody that the Dragon Games will happen again now that they have actual dragons again. And she tells everybody that this was Apple's idea because she thinks this will make Apple go back to being popular. Mira tells Raven that she should participate, and Raven is like, no, I would rather not because I don't want to do something that is similar to my mom. I don't want to be similar to my mom. And then Mira actually reveals that she is the evil queen. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like it's pretty clear that the right course of action now would be to put her in prison back again, like she's an actual danger to society. But for some reason, Snow White just lets her be free again during this time because she wants to compete against her in the Dragon Games just like the good old days. At least Snow White has a backup plan in case something bad happens, that is a booking magic mirror. In this mirror, if you say a certain combination of words, it's going to make you get trapped inside of it. And Snow White tells Apple about this, but remember, Apple is being manipulated by the evil queen, so she goes and tells the evil queen about this. Yeah, it's really hard to defend Apple's actions sometimes. Also, I like the outfits in this movie. I think they're pretty cute. They're like armor-like, and there are the baby dragons that are there so that they sell dolls with baby dragons. The evil queen ends up convincing Apple to join the Dragon Games. And then there's Fable Thorn. I haven't talked about her yet. She's like an anti-hero in some of the movies. I don't remember if she showed up before this, but she is the daughter of the evil fairy from Sleeping Beauty, aka Maleficent, as we know from Disney, but it's not actually Maleficent because this is not Disney, but you know what I mean. And she wants to be evil, so she's working at the evil queen's pseudo sidekick now, and so she gets the booking mirror and mixes them up with mirrors that are from Daring's mirror collection. I wonder where this is going. So in the actual Dragon Games, Raven isn't competing, and Apple and Darling are in opposite teams, and their dragons end up crashing, which hurts Darling's ankle. So yeah, Raven has to take Darling's place. So the evil queen casts a spell on Nevermore that makes him set the arena of the Dragon Games on fire, and it destroys the fake booking mirror. I think they call it booking glass mirror, and I've been saying the wrong name the whole time now. She does all of that because she's well evil. And Daring, our favorite self-obsessed guy, is looking at his reflection in the actual booking glass mirror, and he ends up getting trapped there because of course he does. And he starts going insane, not because he's trapped in a mirror, but because since he is trapped inside of a mirror, he cannot see his reflection anywhere. So the evil queen uses her magic to take control of Ever After High, and Darling finds Daring hand mirror, so she's like worried about him because she's like, he would never drop his actual mirror somewhere. Apple ends up telling Raven that she was the one who set the evil queen free because she was afraid about not having her actual happy future, and they end up having an argument that basically ends their friendship. Raven and the other characters run away, which makes the evil queen curse the whole school, and she tells Apple that she should go and find Raven, and so Apple does that. She's trying to find Raven, and they are in a nearby forest where pixies live, so Apple apologizes, and now Raven and Apple are good, except that Fable makes Apple eat a poisoned apple, and now Apple is in her eternal slumber era.
Apple? Are you okay? Apple! Where did that come from?
Oh my god, how many times did I say Apple in this sentence? So they have to make a funeral for Apple. And it's pretty sad, I'm not going to lie, but Darling ends up accidentally setting Daring free from the mirror, so now he's here, and everybody's like, guys, Daring is here, he should try kissing Apple so she will wake up. Except that Daring goes on to kiss Apple and nothing happens. That's awkward. So Apple is still asleep and Daring is not her prince. That is when Darling decides to try to give CPR to Apple, and when their lips touch, Apple wakes up. Ooh! So yeah, Darling is Apple's prince. Wow. Now to be fair, they did make it ambiguous in the actual movie. Like, did Apple wake up because of the CPR, or is Darling her actual prince? But we know it isn't Daring, and CPR usually doesn't come with heart-shaped magical effects after being performed, so take that as you want. Also, Apple wakes up asking everybody if Daring was the one who wake her up, and no one wants to tell her anything. Okay, so Raven wants to stop her mom, but the only way to trap her inside the magic booking glass mirror thing without needing to guess the combination for it is with an evil fairy doing it for some reason. I don't understand it either. So Raven pretends she's evil so that the evil queen will give her attention, which makes Fable jealous, because I suppose Fable also has mommy issues, like every character in this franchise, and she sees the evil queen as a mother figure.
Oh, I'm mother.
And I'm Big Wrinkly Son.
Which leads to her being against the evil queen because now she's jealous, so she does that. She does the thing to put the evil queen in the looking glass mirror. At the end, Apple and Raven get together to fight against the evil queen, and they save everything with the power of friendship. So the evil queen is back to her mirror, the curse in Ever After High is lifted, and Raven can still visit her mom, but now she isn't escaping. The evil queen tells Raven, "You will be evil like me someday," but Raven has something better to do now. Go to a dragon game. And that is Dragon Games, guys. Generally speaking, I really like Dragon Games way more than I remember liking it. I think it has the best humor out of any Ever After High special, all mostly thanks to Derry, who's becoming more and more of a himbo. I would be mad if he had some sort of deep character before and was getting flanderized, but he didn't. He was just a less fun version of this, so I do approve the himbofication of Derry. I also think having the evil queen as the actual villain for now was smart, and I also like the introduction of Snow White because we finally understand a little better why Apple is the way she is, and I also think the dragons are cute. I do think Apple's development in this movie feels a lot more earned, and I like that she and Raven end up saving the day combining her powers at the end. That is my favorite trope after all. I'm sorry, I'm really trying to talk about other stuff before I get into how gay this movie is. Because it is. I lied to you guys this whole time that we didn't know Darling's destiny. Because as a kid, this was such a huge plot twist to me. And I like it not only because it makes Apple and Darling be one of my favorite tropes, beautiful princess and lesbian with a sword, but because it also proves how stupid this whole thing of following your destiny actually is. Darling was ready to follow a destiny that wasn't even his. Darling had no idea what she was supposed to do, and she actually played a huge part on this destiny here. We never actually find out what Dexter's destiny was supposed to be, and I like how narratively the charming siblings getting mixed up shows how flawed this whole system actually is. Anyway, we'll talk about the lesbians later. As I said, I really do like Dragon Games. I think it's one of my favorite ones. But I do have some other thoughts. First of all, I really don't understand why following your destiny is still such a huge issue as it is, considering the Sorry Book of Legends was destroyed. Fine, I can kind of understand this in a social level. I like that they acknowledge somehow that these ideals are still internalized in society, and it's not that easy to break away from them, even if you destroy the symbols that represent them. And Apple sees her fairy tale future as something that guarantees that she will have safety and happiness, which is what she wants. She's also being manipulated, which is not fun. But I guess it makes no sense, narratively wise, for the Storybook of Legends to have been destroyed then, because the narrative is still the same. It's like it didn't happen. The second thing I really don't like is the character regression. Apple supposedly had this whole growth in the previous movie, and now she's back to being somewhat obsessed with following her destiny. I know this is due to her mother's manipulation and pressure, but the way Apple keeps on jumping from being okay to not being okay with things just feels pretty forced to fit whatever the plot needs. And okay, I understand that Apple is feeling insecure about her future, and both the evil queen and her mother preyed upon that. She was very obviously manipulated in every side. I just wish this was better established. And okay, I guess it's time to talk about the lesbians. Darling being Apple's Prince Charming. As I mentioned earlier, I do like this as a plot device to show how flawed this whole Storybook of Legends thing is. I like it because it's a plot twist, and I also feel like it fits Apple's character a lot. Apple's whole arc about fighting her demons. Compulsory heterosexuality. With her mom being so insistent of Apple to follow on her footsteps, and the whole thing of signing up the Storybook of Legends, we noticed that Apple has always been under such intense pressure to fit into a certain mold of who she was supposed to be, and I'm sure she found this box that she was stuck in comforting for a while. It was a guarantee that she had a good future waiting for her, which made her really hold on to that. But what if Apple herself had doubts about her ever after? What if she has questions that she doesn't want to think too much about? This just makes her a lot more interesting, you know? It doesn't surprise me that the evil queen used the phrase, and I'm going to read it, quoted. If anyone learned that it was Applewhite who freed me, why, you could kiss your Prince Charming and the rest of your tale goodbye to manipulate Apple. I said it in a really weird way for some reason. Obviously, this could be read as her just saying that Apple wouldn't get her happy ending, but the whole line about Prince Charming does make me wonder if Apple has been hoping to actually fall in love with a Prince Charming, something she isn't even actually sure she can do. Apple is being manipulated by every single authority figure around her, and she has so much internalized stuff to break away from, you know? Not only in a sexual orientation way, she still has the need to reach her mother's demanding ideals. She still feels like she needs to follow her story. That is why I can't even be mad at her, even when she does something so stupid like setting the evil queen free. Apple is confused and she wants security more than anything. Even without the lesbian lens I wear watching any movie, I think her actions are pretty sympathetic and understandable, although I don't agree with them in any way. They're also dumb, selfish, and hurtful to the people around her, but they are understandable. And that is why I'm such a number one Applewhite apologist. She's complicated. With all that said, I wish Darling being Apple's prince was a bigger of a deal, and by that I mean I wish Apple actually learned that it was Darling who woke her up and not actually Daring. This is something that never happens. This didn't even have to send Apple into a gay panic spiral or anything. She could just be shocked to learn that Daring isn't who she thought he was in her life. I know that maybe for the time they couldn't be as explicit with stuff like this, like shows nowadays are, but I think this would have helped Apple's evolution too. Coming into this rewatch, I was very interested to see how they were going to deal with this whole Apple Darling thing, because I couldn't remember how they dealt with it. And I was kind of disappointed to realize that I didn't remember because they didn't deal with it at all. They didn't even acknowledge it. They could have said it was just CPR if they didn't want to get too gay. I would have understood for the times and stuff. I would be upset, but I would have understood it. The whole scene was ambiguous enough. I just really wanted to see how this was going to change the overarching plot going forward, and especially Apple's character. And now that we are going to the movie Epic Winter, it's very sad for me to say that it didn't affect the plot at all, with the exception of the character of Daring. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about Epic Winter. I really don't feel like explaining the whole plot of Epic Winter. Basically, we get introduced to this girl named Crystal, who is the daughter of the Snow Queen and the King. I think they are supposed to be from the Snow Queen fairy tale, which was my favorite fairy tale when I was a kid. I remember I read this book when I was 9 and I loved it. So Crystal is spoiled. Her parents are good monarchs, they are good people, but Crystal is very spoiled. There's these two pixie-like characters, they're the villains, and they get the dust from the evil queen's mirror, the shattered glass, and they sprinkle in the monarch's eyes so that they will get evil. And so it gets cold in Ever After High, and Crystal joins our gang to go find a fix for this issue. And she learns responsibility along the way, which is represented by her learning how to tie her shoelaces because she doesn't know how to. And like, I am judging this girl because she's 15 years old and doesn't know how to tie her shoelaces, but I also took a really long time to learn how to tie my shoelaces, so I cannot judge her too harshly. But I mean, I learned it way before I was 15, you know? And so our girls, but weirdly not Apple nor Raven or the ones we are usually used to following, I wonder why, have to go to a bunch of castles from different fairy tales to try to find stuff that they need to reverse whatever is going on, and we get some cute winter outfits for the girls. So yeah, we get to visit a bunch of new castles, and we get introduced to another character named Rosabella Beauty. Rosabella is the daughter of Belle and the Beast from Beauty and the Beast. Is it she called Belle in this universe? I have no idea. And Rosabella is really cute, but coincidentally, Daring is acting he's a lot more vain and self-absorbed in this movie than before, somehow. And he coincidentally gets turned into a beast by the Snow King. I wonder where this is going. Yeah, it turns out Daring is the beast, guys. This is his destiny. And I do like this, but I feel like it's poorly done. First of all, it's been like 10 years. Oh my god, it's been 10 years. It was in the summer break between 3rd and 4th grade that I read it. It's been 10 years. I just had an existential crisis. But anyway, 10 years ago, I read the original Beauty and the Beast fairy tale, and I haven't reread it since. So this might not be the case in the story, and I'm just completely wrong. If that's the case, please ignore this. But I did rewatch the Disney movie. Well, when I wrote the script 3 months ago, it was recently, because I watched it in November, and I wrote the script in January. But now it's been like 4 months. But I did rewatch Beauty and the Beast quite recently for my standards. And I realized that the Beast's flaw in that is not vanity. Vanity is Gaston's thing. I think it was more like the Beast was obsessed with status and appearances in a more prideful way, if that makes sense. He refused to help the enchantress, I'm struggling to say this word, enchantress, when she asked him for help because she looked poor and not very powerful, and not because she was ugly. He got intimidated by her changing forms because he realized she actually held some power over him. So this is a pride issue. And in Epic Winter, they make the whole Beast thing to be vanity, which I think is a pretty common interpretation of Beauty and the Beast. As I said, it's been years since I read the original fairy tale, and vanity might as well be his thing there. But this is just something I've been thinking about since I rewatched the Disney movie. Obviously, it makes sense that Daring's flaw is vanity in some way because this is what his character has always been, overconfident and self-obsessed. But again, I think this makes him more of a Gaston type of character than a Beast character, which is why his character growth in this movie is a little confusing to me. As I said, I'm not going to explain the whole plot of this movie, but Fable has been having to clean up the whole school as a punishment for helping the evil queen in the previous movie, and the culmination of Daring's character development in this movie, of how much he has learned by falling in love with Rosabella and trying to get better, is him taking Fable's responsibility to help her, something he will never get away from. This doesn't work for me for two reasons. The first one is what I was talking about earlier, that is, Daring's flaw is vanity, not pride. It's not that he has refused to help people. So his growth being represented by him doing something like this doesn't totally correlate with the flaw he had to overcome in the first place. I say doesn't totally correlate because I guess you could argue that him learning to be more selfless does show a change in his self-obsession. The words even fit here, selfless, self-obsession, which I think is fair. This isn't my biggest criticism, I guess. The biggest issue I have with Daring's character development is that after Daring says he's taking Fable's place, her punishment gets revoked because there's this weird loophole in the contract she signed, saying that if someone chose to take Fable's place, she would get instantly freed from it, and so would the person. So Daring gets character development and then immediately gets excused from his responsibility. It doesn't feel earned to me at all. Which is the same way I feel about his relationship with Rosabella. I think it's really cute, but it's too rushed. I think Crystal is an okay character. I know a lot of people dislike her because she's spoiled and dumb, and honestly, I see it. But I don't know, she's a single child. I really don't like the villains in this movie, though. I don't remember their names, but they feel like a bad copy of Sparrow and Duchess. And I mean this in a derogatory way. I don't hate Epic Winter. I think it's a fun movie. And I'm not even opposed to having more one-off little stories with Ever After High characters in little adventures. I like a good side plot, the movie, if it is good, but I don't like that it came right after Dragon Games, that it was still very much focused on the whole Destiny tradition thing. This special doesn't address anything that happened before except for Daring's character, and it also builds up for nothing going forward either. It's sad that this was the last Ever After High special. Okay, before we finish it, I just have some other thoughts that I want to comment on, and I have to do this fast because I just felt my elastic band in my hair burst, so my hair is going to fall down at any second, so I have to make this quick. First of all, Maddie used to be my favorite character when I was a kid, and to be fair, at the time I also loved Pinkie Pie, Mabel, and Star Butterfly, so you can guess what type of character I gravitated towards at the time and how she fit exactly into that mold. And don't get me wrong, I still love Maddie. She's fun and cute and quirky in an annoying way, and I love her for that, but she doesn't have a lot of depth. Most of the characters in these movies are going through some sort of existential crisis or even doubts, but Maddie's just in this constant fuck it with balls state. And good for her, I'm not complaining. I think she's a very needed, fun person, and I don't think she necessarily needed a big character arc or anything. This is just a reflection about how my enjoyment of characters has changed with the time. When I was younger, I liked amusing, hyper type of characters. And nowadays, I think I like the more complex ones. I still enjoy the fun ones, I just learned to like the other ones too. Which reminds me of a book that, according to my script, I read recently, but it was actually 2 months ago when I first wrote the script. But anyway, it was this book called The Library of Burnt Books. It has nothing to do with Ever After High. It is a World War II book, but it made me think of how I've come to enjoy complex stories with the time. When I was younger, I didn't like to think critically about anything. In high school, I wrote an essay referencing Kant's enlightenment, talking about how sometimes it was better not to be enlightened, because ignorance is a bliss. But honestly, I'm very thankful that I don't think this way anymore. I'm sure some people who might be watching this video are thinking, why are you overthinking so much about a children's show? And I might be reading too much into it, but also, what's the matter with that? For me, overanalyzing something is a huge part of the fun of consuming it, which is why I'm super excited to finish my Buffy the Vampire Slayer video. It is coming, guys. It's going to be very long. I have so much stuff to say. And well, guys, I think that this is it for today's video. I want to apologize for not posting for such a long time. I had some stuff going on in my life that I had to fix, and anyway, not going to get too much into this, but yeah, I was pretty busy, but now things are going back to normal, I'm going to go back into posting. I have 3 very long videos planned that are going to take some time for me to finish, but I'm also preparing shorter videos that are not going to be as long and are going to come earlier. So yeah, I'm very excited for that. I hope you guys are too. Thank you so much for all the love in my last video about Scooby-Doo. And I feel my hair falling down, so I have to finish this really fast. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys very soon. Bye. Kisses, kisses. They told you everything was waiting for you. They told you everything was set in stone.